Of all the amazing leadership tools out there, which one is the best? Is it discipline, strategy, communication? Every great leader relies on all three, but there's one tool that quietly outperforms them all. Stick around because in this episode, we're going to talk about that and more. It has to be communication, right? They told me communication was key. Hi, and welcome to the Everyday Diplomat. I'm Michael Forrest, a retired Marine Sergeant Major, former U.S. diplomat, and somebody who spent the better part of 20 years leading high-performing teams through crisis, conflict, and constant change. Throughout all of those experiences, I've learned something very powerful. The very best leaders I know, they don't just manage tasks, they shape people, and they do it through influence, trust, and gratitude. Now, that might seem simple, but gratitude isn't about being soft or lowering standards. It's about seeing people. It's about recognizing effort, creating belonging, and then setting the type of tone that makes other people want to perform at their best. So today we're breaking down what I call gratitude mindset in leadership. It's what it looks like in action, why it actually works, and how to make it part of your daily rhythm as a leader. And please excuse my rather raspy voice today. I have been talking quite a lot, and we just got back from Japan, and my voice is just about gone, but bear with me. I'm not going to stop and give up on you guys. When people hear the word gratitude, they often think about thank you cards, polite manners, or maybe even holiday speeches. But in leadership, gratitude is far more powerful of a force. It's a performance tool. It's culture fuel. I like that, culture fuel. Think about it. Every workplace, every unit, every team has invisible currents running beneath the surface. Morale, trust, and respect. Those things determine whether people show up and give their best or just go through the motions. And those currents are directly shaped by the tone that leaders set. Gratitude is what aligns those currents in the right direction. In my experience, gratitude doesn't make people soft. It makes them invested. When people feel seen, they're going to give more of themselves. Isn't that just normal? Isn't that how you would act? I think people communicate better. They look out for one another. And I've seen it happen in the most high pressure environments imaginable. So I think it's going to work everywhere. Years ago, I led a maintenance team that was incredibly exhausted, under pressure, and constantly falling behind a ridiculous schedule. Everyone was working long hours. We call them days on, stays on, 12 on, 12 off, and most of us were staying for both. I could not have leaned on authority or pushed harder because it just wouldn't have worked. So instead, I took a completely different route. I started recognizing the small wins. I was publicly thanking the Marines who stayed late to troubleshoot a stubborn issue, or the Marine who volunteered to cover an extra shift so that somebody could go home to see their kid. I even started writing handwritten cards to my Marines for special events in their or their families' lives. Birthdays, anniversaries, kids' birthdays, you name it. If it was important to them, I was making sure it was important to me. And what happened next wasn't magic. It was human nature. The team started taking more pride in their work. They began acknowledging each other. The entire atmosphere began to shift. Productivity went up, not because I changed the system, but because gratitude changed the people within it. You see, gratitude changes focus. It turns the attention away from what's broken and towards what's actually working. And when that begins to happen, people stop feeling like they're being managed and they start feeling like they're part of something big. That's where ownership is born. It's also worth saying this, that gratitude is not weakness. It doesn't replace accountability. It merely strengthens it. People who feel appreciated, they don't fear feedback. They actually seek it actively. They want to grow because they know that their efforts are going to be recognized. When leaders practice gratitude with consistency, it starts to spread through the ranks, creating a culture of appreciation, not entitlement, which is a horrible thing to deal with. And that's when the real transformation really begins to happen. The teams become more resilient, communication's going to improve, and trust starts flowing both ways. Now, if you're somebody who values leadership growth and really wants to build that type of culture, make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to this channel, because in next week's episode, we're going to be exploring something that goes hand in hand with gratitude, the role of reflection in leadership growth. Reflection is how you turn gratitude into actual progress. So go ahead and take a second, hit that subscribe button. It just takes a second, and stay tuned because we're going to unpack exactly how to do that in the next episode. A really big misconception that I hear from time to time, well, actually more than time to time, quite often, it's that gratitude somehow weakens your authority, that if you thank your people too much or you show appreciation too often, they're going to stop taking you seriously. Frankly, I'm just so tired of hearing people teach other people that they need to be some fake version of themselves in order to be successful in business or leadership. The mindset couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the very most effective leaders that I have ever had the privilege of working with, both in and out of the uniform, they're the ones who understand that gratitude and accountability, along with a myriad of other attributes that real humans have, they actually strengthen each other. Let me explain. Accountability without gratitude, it just creates fear. People perform just enough to stay out of trouble. They hide their mistakes. They stop speaking up because they don't want to be the next target. You get compliance, but you get zero commitment. Gratitude, on the other hand, without accountability, it creates complacency. Everybody feels good, but nobody grows. Gratitude only becomes powerful when it's paired with clear expectations, with honest feedback, and absolute follow-through. The leaders who master both of these are the ones who get results and retain respect. I remember a time when a young Marine that I worked alongside made a mistake that cost the team valuable time. To be honest, they cost the team a lot more than time, but that's for a whole nother episode, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to unpack that one. But anyways, it would have been incredibly easy for me to lose my temper and then make an example out of him. And then, to be fair, that's what many people had probably hoped that I would do. I was a first sergeant at that time, and that's the stereotype of a first sergeant, is to absolutely lose your cool, but not me. I would. But instead, I pulled that individual aside incredibly privately, and I acknowledged what went wrong. But I also thanked him for owning up to it immediately, and then for the efforts that he put in every other day. That simple moment, it turned a disciplinary situation into a developmental one. Why are you going to focus merely on the one mistake that an individual has when they have worked excellently for all that time preceding that? Doesn't make any sense to me. The result was that individual didn't just fix the mistake. He became one of the most reliable Marines in my entire section because he knew that I saw him as more than his error. That's what accountability with gratitude actually looks like. See, when leaders take the time to express appreciation, even when holding the line, they create real psychological safety, not just the kind you read about in books. That's what allows people to take risks, to innovate, and then admit when something isn't quite working. It's how you build trust that endures through pressure and any type of setback. Leaders who practice what I call everyday diplomacy, they understand this balance intuitively. It's not about lowering the bar. It's about raising it in the right way through influence and not your intimidation. And hey, look, if you're stepping into a new leadership role or trying to reset the tone of a team that might be struggling a little bit, this mindset can make or break your success. That's why I built the First 30 Days Leadership course. It's to help new leaders just like you earn respect fast, to set the right tone early, and then build trust without ever overstepping or overcompensating. The first 30 days can define your entire reputation as a leader, and gratitude is one of your greatest tools. You'll learn exactly how to use it in real situations without ever losing authority or control. My QR codes have apparently been quite a big hit here, so you can scan that QR code on the screen. It's usually somewhere over here. I never know exactly where those darn things are, but if you're a bit more tech averse, like I can be sometimes, go below in the description and you can find the link down there, and it will bring you to our page where you can find out all the information that you want. All right, go ahead and do me a favor. Close the doors, lock the windows, and come close, because I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret. Gratitude doesn't stop with you. When it's genuine, and it's got to be genuine, it spreads. I've watched it happen in real time many times. One person feels seen, and suddenly they start seeing other people. They begin saying things like, thank you more often, and showing patience where perhaps they maybe showed a little bit of frustration, and giving credit where it's due. These are novel concepts, I know, right? But it looks amazing. The energy is going to multiply. It's going to travel through the team until it becomes part of the culture itself. That's what I call the ripple effect of gratitude. Leaders set the tone whether they mean to or not. The way we respond to effort, mistake, and progress becomes the standard that everybody else on the team follows. When we lead with gratitude, people start mirroring that behavior. They begin to take pride not only in their own work, but in the success of everybody around them. When I was serving overseas with the State Department, our team faced constant pressures. The work was incredibly demanding, the hours were unpredictable, and the stakes were incredibly high. It would have been very easy for that stress to eat away at morale, but instead, I made it a point, so did all of those around me, every week to publicly thank somebody. Not with a grand ceremony or an award, but just genuine acknowledgement. During our team huddles, this became a norm. The funny thing was that after a few weeks, I wasn't the only one doing it anymore. The team members began recognizing each other without being prompted. And yes, some of the recognition was at times humorous and I'm going to say slightly inappropriate, and I'm not going to repeat any of it here, but it's definitely in the memories of quite a few of my friends. But it was real, and it became very normal to celebrate these wins. You could feel the shift. People didn't just work for each other anymore. They actually worked with each other. And I want to tell you one thing, the magic of that unit, specifically referring to my time in the crown jewel of the MSG program in Moscow, Russia, we were so thoroughly screened for that role that nobody on that team wanted to fail and be a burden for somebody else. It was really the one time in my entire career where everybody was working towards one goal with 110% of everything that they had. And I'll tell you what, it was absolutely amazing because you could sit there and our commander could sit there and tell us the end state of a product that they wanted to be completed, right? Let's just say he wanted us to bake this pie, and 10 of us could be sitting at the table and we could look at the pie, what it's supposed to look like, assign roles, and we could come back on the assigned date of when it was supposed to be done. And every piece of that pie would fit together more perfectly than if one of us had made the pie ourselves. And I'll tell you what, that doesn't happen everywhere, because if that culture isn't built, you're going to issue orders or you're going to speak with that type of expectation. And not only is the pie not going to look like a pie, there's going to be some weird ingredients in there and you're not going to want to taste it. But anyway, all of that, that's the power of gratitude. It doesn't erase challenges, but it does change how people face them. It transforms tension into teamwork. Now, I want you to imagine that same energy in a corporate setting, a firehouse, or a military squadron. Gratitude unlocks creativity because it creates that safety net. Because people who feel appreciated, they're going to feel safe to speak up. They share amazing ideas. Sometimes not, but sometimes they do. And they ask questions. They stop hiding behind silence because they know that their voices actually matter. A team, you see, fueled by gratitude, they can accomplish things that would break most others. But here's the most important part. Gratitude has to be consistent. It can't just show up on special occasions or when morale begins to dip. It has to be a daily practice, something that flows naturally from who you are as a leader. When gratitude becomes part of your leadership DNA, it does a lot more than just make people feel good. It builds unity, it builds loyalty, and over time, it builds a culture that can weather any storm. So as you reflect on this week, think about who you've influenced through your own example, who started paying gratitude forward because of how you led. That ripple effect might reach further than you've ever seen, but it will always start with you. All right, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? It's one thing to talk about gratitude, but it is a whole other thing to practice it daily. The truth is that gratitude isn't something that happens automatically. As with most good leadership traits, if you haven't come to realize by now, things like this take intentional effort, especially in leadership where the weight of responsibility, deadlines, and constant problem solving can easily drown it all. But here's what I've learned. The very best leaders build gratitude into their rhythm the same way that they schedule meetings or track KPIs or other performance metrics. It's part of their operating system. Sometimes that means starting the day with a quick reflection. I used to end each morning briefing by asking myself one very simple question: who deserves acknowledgement today? It forced me to slow down just long enough to see the people behind the work. Another practice is closing every meeting with recognition. It doesn't have to be formal or well scripted or scripted at all, really. It just takes 15 seconds to call out somebody's contribution, especially when it's something that might have gone unnoticed. It's small, but it changes how people leave the room. And I promise you, people are going to remember. Ask me how I know that. That'll be a whole nother episode and another story. And look, hey, there's also gratitude in written form. A very short note, a quick text, even a voice memo saying, I noticed what you did and it really mattered. Those moments create lasting impact because they're special, they're personal, and they're usually unexpected. The key has to be authenticity. Can't be a fake leader. People can tell when the gratitude is real and when it's performative. Real gratitude comes from attention. It's not about checking a box. It's about connection. When you make gratitude a consistent habit, it becomes very contagious, but it also becomes very stabilizing. For you, it helps you stay grounded when everything else feels like it's moving too fast, and it reminds you why you lead in the first place. That's why in the Everyday Diplomat community, we talk so much about intentional leadership. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present all the time. Gratitude is one of the very best ways to stay connected to the mission and the people around you. If you're somebody who enjoys taking these ideas and turning them into daily habits, make sure you're subscribed to the Diplomat's Dispatch newsletter. This is where I share short, incredibly practical insights to help you lead with influence, stay grounded, and then grow your leadership presence every other week. The more you practice gratitude, the more natural it's going to become. And over time, it stops being something that you do and just starts becoming part of who you are. Gratitude keeps you centered when everything else feels uncertain. Every leader goes through seasons when the pressure piles up, tight deadlines, competing priorities, difficult personalities, or moments when nothing seems to be going as planned. In those moments, gratitude becomes more than just a mindset. It becomes your compass. It points you back to what truly matters, the people right beside you, the lessons you learned, and then the purpose that brought you there in the very first place. There were times in my career when I was so focused on outcomes that I completely lost sight of the things that mattered the most to me. I was chasing metrics, operational goals, or the next big milestone. But the moments that stand out the most to me right now, they're not the awards or the results. They're the quiet ones, the conversations after a long day, the small wins, and the ones that almost always went unnoticed, and the people that gave everything that they had and then expected nothing in return. A lot of respect for those people. Gratitude helps you see those very moments for what they really are, the real substance of what leadership really means. It reminds you that influence isn't about control, it's about connection. It's about leading in a way that leaves people better than you found them. That's why I say every business is a people business. So as this Thanksgiving week begins to wrap up, go ahead and take a breath. Look around and think about the people who have stood beside you and the ones who believed in you when you didn't even have it all figured out yourself. That's the compass. That's your compass. And it's what keeps you grounded in purpose when everything else starts to pull you off course. Thank you for spending a part of your day here with us at the Everyday Diplomat and for choosing to grow as a leader. Gratitude isn't just a word that we talk about once a year. It's a discipline that actually shapes who we are and how we lead and then how we make other people feel. If this message hits home, share it with somebody who could use the reminder that gratitude is a strength and not a softness. Next week, we're going to dive into the role of reflection in leadership. It's how great leaders turn gratitude and experience into insights that fuel their next move. You're not going to want to miss that one. Until then, keep leading with integrity, stay grounded in gratitude, and remember that every business is a people business. I'm Michael Forrest, and this is the Everyday Diplomat.